Welcome back to the Within Podcast. This is your host, Nikki Wallace, with co-host Allie Sartain. We are excited to do something a little different this week. So I know we've been heavy on the wellness. That is obviously topics near and dear to our heart. But probably the next topic that's near and dear to our heart is business and entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
And holy shit, all of the things we've learned along the way. So we wanted to do a fun little episode. Lessons we've learned as entrepreneurs. So, Allie, we have not talked. We did not rehearse this. Well, we don't really rehearse things for our episodes, but we intentionally are not talking about what we both have down because I think we want to know what the other has to say about their entrepreneurship journey. So I'm going to make Allie go first. What's your first lesson? So we each picked 3 of our top takeaways. So just to give you context, I've been on my own a little over 5 years. When did you start your first?
Oh gosh.
When
That's a
did
good
I teach you about
question.
Excel?
Yeah, that was quite the conversation.
That was a long time ago,
That
though.
was a long time ago. I don't even know. Millie was probably like 3, so like 11, 12 years.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking
Yeah.
over 10. Yeah. So we grew up in a very entrepreneurial household. Our dad is kind of a serial entrepreneur. Grandpa owned a law firm.
Mhm.
Our mom was a teacher, but was very involved in kind of all the things kind of within the home that you had to do to support entrepreneurs. So I feel like our dinner table conversations are
Yeah.
probably a little different than some people's. Ellie, what's your first
I think
lesson?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that I learned is to get really crystal clear on, what you want
Mhm.
and really understanding, your foundations and who you are as a person because I had so many people who, when I went to leave and initially, start my journey of being on my own, I had everybody else kind of interjecting, well, what if it doesn't work? Or
Yep.
you have what you have because I gave it to you, just all of those doubts that could kind of creep in. And I think at the end of the day, I knew what I wanted to create. And I might not have been crystal clear on it, but I did know what I wanted to make people feel like. I wanted people to feel seen and cared for. And I wanted them to have a space where they could come and they could genuinely feel good and like supported and loved essentially. And so over the years, I've had so many people doubt me and think maybe it was a weird or unconventional route. But I think at my core, I always knew that I wanted to show up for, especially women and to make them feel beautiful. And I didn't let anyone shake that. So I think now I'm really, really trying to get crystal clear on what I want that to look like even more so to become unshakable in my foundation of what I'm trying to build because it is a little different and unique. And I think that kind of freaks people out
Yeah,
or makes
I would
them
agree.
ask all the questions. And so, get clear on what you want and how you want to make people feel because it will shift throughout the time. I didn't ever think I'd be building a business in my basement now. But
The closet, right?
it's a storm shelter.
Okay,
So
whatever.
let's give it the credit it
Olivia would call
deserves.
that a closet.
It is a closet. It feels like so we're gonna grow from there. But at the end of the day, again, I know how I want to make people feel, and I think that that's the most important thing to always just stay true to yourself.
Yeah, I like it.
What about you?
I know you just said that, and now I'm like, mine kind of thread up the line with a lot of yours. So my number one was trust your gut. I think I actually did not go out. I always knew I wanted to own a business. I never knew doing what. And then 5 years ago, I literally called my husband when he was in Mexico and quit my job.
It's one way to go for it.
I know. And why I did that is an episode that we will do another day. So I was lucky enough that he told me that summer, just, take your time, just figure out what you want to do. Be happy.
Yep.
You're at work too much to understand, or, to not do what you want to do every day. You're not going to love it every day, but, at least like before you just jump into something or go get another corporate job, like figure out what you want to do. And I was lucky enough that in the meantime, I had clients call me that I'd worked with and said, hey, can we still work with you? And I started my journey there. So, but trusting your gut, I think as my company evolved, it evolved very quickly. It's changed very rapidly over the last 5 years, which can be good and can be bad. But I think learning to be very intentional with like listening to my gut. Like the night before things would happen, I had two people quit in one day. Like I've had, found out somebody was stealing from me. There's
Mhm.
things that happen. Like I always knew in my gut something is not right and you
Yep.
need to go ask more questions or search or whatever. And the further I've gotten in my journey, the more I've learned to trust my gut and
Mhm.
trust my instinct and realize that what are the signs that my body, again, I
Yeah.
think the wellness journey for me has kind of gone hand in hand because as I was so sick, kind of at the beginning of my or kind of mid entrepreneur journey, um, and really started to get in tune with my body, being able to then realize how important the signals were that it
Yeah.
was sending me was super, super powerful. And to this day now, I make decisions. I sit with it. I trust my gut. I try not to be so impulse when we're
Yeah.
making decisions because I need my body literally to like tell me. And I know that sounds really crazy
No,
when I'm
it's
saying it out
so
loud,
true.
but I think to be able to do all the things as a mom, an entrepreneur, and a business owner, and all
Mhm.
community, I give back to our community. I sit on several boards, do all the things. Like you need to be so in tune with yourself. It's one reason I quit
Mhm.
drinking several years ago because that cloudiness that I was getting, that clouded my judgment in some ways. So anyway, trust your gut. I think that's for me has been probably like the number one thing is like your gut is telling you something. I got really into numerology and human design and understanding who I am and as an individual and how I show up and what that feels like and where that and like I literally feel um I forget how human design like names it, but like I literally feel like intuition in my gut, being able to like trust, like, oh God, like that's not just
Yeah.
me or a feeling, or I don't just have gas in that season of my life. But that is really something that's going on. Every time I would go to bed and I would tell my husband, something's gonna happen tomorrow. I know something's gonna happen.
Yep.
Like getting goosebumps talking about it. And sure enough, I would walk in the office that day and something, thank God I never had like catastrophic stuff happen in my
Right.
businesses, but it would be somebody quitting or, something happened with a candidate. I always knew I was in for something.
And I do think there's also a thing as, women's intuition to take it even a
Yes.
step farther. And again, this is why we are such big advocates for really getting to know yourself and listening, being still and quiet enough to be able to listen to yourself
Yep.
because your body, you have the answers.
Yes.
It's just paying attention. And I think that any time you want to start an entrepreneur journey or you're in it or with anything, there were seasons in my business where I would have conversations with you. I almost added an addition onto my salon because there was somebody that I had in my salon that it wasn't working. And you said to me, I don't know if you remember this, but you're like, you're literally trying to run away from somebody,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
in my gut, I knew she wasn't a good fit, but I wanted to do everything to avoid the hard stuff that came with letting someone go.
Yeah.
And I went against my gut instinct and paid for it tenfold. And at the end of the day, letting her go and listening to my gut was essentially the best choice I could have made for the staff and the people coming in and everything.
Yeah.
So it's a big one.
Yeah. Trust your gut.
Yeah.
Number two.
What's your second one? You go
All
first this
right.
time.
Make sure you are aligned. So this is why when you did your first.
Mhm.
So again, everybody here kind of knows my journey. And if you don't, you'll learn it. I'm very open. But I didn't have any idea where it was all going. I started with a contract, doing contract recruiting. And very quickly, a lot of my old clients said, I love what you're doing. And would you be able to go and do
Mhm.
contract recruiting as well? Because we love the model. I support a lot of manufacturing companies and they like the option to have like a contract to hire. So, naive Nikki that was pregnant with her second daughter, that is now four, almost four. I said, sure. And, we went and we got the office and did all the things. And I didn't really want to do it if I'm looking back and
Right.
being honest. I hated like with every being of my soul staffing. Like I know I'm good at it. I love recruiting. I'm a good recruiter, but to be like a necessary evil in the staffing space and the margins were crazy and just I mean, we were paying tens of thousands of dollars in payroll every week. And then you have to wait sometimes net 90 to get that cash back. And
Yeah.
I threw myself into a fire that I did not even give myself, I think, time to think about because I was like, "Oh, yeah, this is gonna be fun," and B, like, I had an employee
Yeah.
that was kind of
Yep.
giving me signals that she wasn't super happy or she, didn't know, that staying with our company was a long-term thing, and at that point, I was like, "Oh, I'm pregnant, and you're literally gonna, like, leave my company." So I gave her a month off, and I was like, "Let's meet back after I have this baby and decide if you're in, we'll, do the staffing company. If you're not, we won't." She was one of 2 employees that I had at the time, and, I came back and I thought she'd say that she was done, and she didn't. She said, "We should build this staffing company." And I knew kind of with every fiber of my being that I didn't really wanna do it, but I was like, "Why not? Hell yeah." Like,
Yeah.
and we took off with a bang. We had 21 agreements signed in the first 2 months, and, I mean, we had all the right tools, and we did it, I think, well to start, but I hated it. Like, I
Yeah.
just was so unhappy, and that's really, ironically,
Yeah.
when some of my health stuff started.
Yeah.
I mean, I started getting really sick really fast, and so, I was lucky enough, I actually wrote it on a piece of paper in a full moon. It was about a year and a half, 2 years in, and I, um said that I wanted to release whatever didn't align anymore. And I had somebody walk into my office the next day and ask to buy my staffing company. So I got super lucky, but I also like will never not do something that I'm not aligned with.
Yeah.
That's kind of the lesson I took. So
I think it's absolutely huge. I think, doing things in alignment with yourself, like, you can make all these decisions because you think it's the right thing or essentially maybe to, like, stop you from having to have a hard conversation, but you can only live in that state of going against what you know to be right or true for so long before, the shit is gonna hit the fan, you
yeah, if
know?
you're not aligned, you're going to know very quickly. So,
Yeah,
all
definitely.
right, what's yours?
Okay, doing it all yourself is not a strategy. So,
Wow.
ugh, I'm still working on this one, okay? Because I think even as a mom, I that is something that buried me big time and
Yeah.
caused a lot of resentment in my relationship is we something happens that I'm like, "Oh," like I even catch myself now with my kids being like, "Just give it to me. I'll just do it. It'll be quicker," you
Yeah.
know? And in my business, I said that for a long time. And what I'm doing now in this next season of my life is I'm looking back at how I had the salon and yes, it was super successful. I made incredible money. I did what I loved. I only worked a few days of the week. I was had all the things. But I also know that there's a lot of mistakes that I made that really hindered me from growing to the capacity that I really potentially could have done.
Yeah.
I always said, like, I'll do it myself. So I was literally in the salon at 6 a.m. on Sundays cleaning, stocking everything. I was working behind the chair. I was doing the marketing. I was restocking the shelves. I was doing the
All the
laundry.
things.
I was
Yeah.
literally doing everything. And what I have learned, and even now in the season that I'm in, I'm making the PDFs. I'm doing all the stuff that I hate and it doesn't really serve me. But what that's doing is it's taking you away from the stuff that you're most powerful at and you're essentially,
Your zone of genius is what they
yeah.
call it. Yeah.
Yeah, you're draining your energy and your resources on stuff that isn't going to really move the needle in your business. And so that's something that I am still practicing and working on and trying to be aware that I'm
Yeah.
doing it. But I think that's, the biggest, maybe a hard lesson that I learned looking back at how I potentially could have grown and didn't
Yeah.
because of the story I kept telling myself. So,
Yeah, it's hard to let go though too as your entrepreneur. Like
yeah,
that's your baby,
yes,
literal. Like
literally.
and so your name's on it, your everything. And so it's hard to let go. That's a point even like for everybody. I
Yeah,
mean, there's so many corporate leaders I work with now that, oh, it's just faster if I do it. When you're, 30, 40, 50,000 in revenue and you have 50, 60, 70 employees
yeah,
or more or less, really, like, even $1 million in revenue and, you have a handful of employees, like, being able to train and part of what I do when I come in is like, what can we set these people like what are their superpowers? What do they like to do? And how do you align for them some of the things that maybe you don't love to do? You're
for
just
sure.
doing it because that's, you're the boss and that's what you're supposed to do. So that's a good lesson.
Yeah, definitely not always the easy one. And I think with all of these, it's like
Yeah.
practice and it's why we talk about, like reflection and having the time alone with yourself. Like,
Yeah.
I think it's always good to kind of audit yourself, what's working and what's not, what's serving me, what's getting me closer to the goals, and maybe what's maybe draining me a little bit. It's
Yeah.
always important to kind of check in on those.
All
Okay,
right.
what's your third one?
All right. Have a good network of people. So entrepreneurship is hard. I think, you choose your hard. You either go work in a corporate and you're going to, be answering to somebody else and all the things. But owning a business and running a business and operating a business is hard. It
Mhm.
just is. Like, I think you go and you think you're going to do it and, it's going to be roses and sunshines. But as Allie just
Yeah,
said, I've reconciled my books for a long time. I freaking hate reconciling my books, but somebody needed to do it. And that was what I did at midnight after everybody went to bed, because that was when my brain, no emails were coming in, and I
yeah,
knew I could get the things done. So I think I was surprised when I started my business how much my network had changed. I've always been very involved in our community. I was in a sales role for 10 years prior to that. So I had to know a lot of
yeah,
people. Like, people sometimes are like, how do you know everybody? And it's like, I used to have 15 meetings a week, like with half of them being new meetings. So like I
yeah,
had to physically go out in the city and get to know people. But I was surprised how much my network changed when I got into business. I think some people were very the naysayers, like,
yeah,
and so I shed them, or I maybe stopped doing going places or doing things or going to networking events that didn't necessarily serve where I was in life. And it was hard. It was,
yeah.
like
It's tough.
shedding like a layer of your own identity almost, as you kind of come out of that. But one thing that I've loved is the people that are now in my corner. I probably have like four-ish, five, like very, very valued um, confidants in my circle that I know I can go to them and they're going to tell me right, wrong, like, you're thinking about this well, you're not. And I need that. And I think as an entrepreneur,
Yeah,
you need those people that you can confide in on the good days and the bad days. And the bad days, they're also going to be the ones that know your strengths and say,
mhm,
keep going. Like, this is, or don't, right? Like, you're also maybe like missing a blind spot. So
yeah,
I think it's been cool to see kind of my network shift, but then those core people in my life that, like, at any given moment, I know I can pick up the phone and call them, and vice versa. That they're going to be the people that are, saying my name in rooms where I'm not in, or they're going to be, cheering me on, and there to support me in all the facets that happen. So get those people, find them, like, make
yeah,
sure you have solid ones. You're gonna find some along the way that you think are your people, and they burn you, and those hurt, and
yeah,
those are hard. Those are hard lessons to go through. That they, go around you, or they I mean, I've had crazy stuff happen over the last 5 years, kind of in the space that I was playing in. So protect yourself and make sure you don't just let your guard down for anybody, but for the ones that you align with and resonate with, make sure that they are your people and they're
yeah.
there for you. So
Well, it's like I heard a thing and it was, how many people are you going to start disappointing when you kind of step into your power or hit different levels of success? And it's okay to change and it's
mhm.
okay to want more out of life. I think there's a point where, that became a bad thing to want money or want success, especially for women. I think we were stuck in roles of, needing to just be a mom or do this,
Yeah.
but it's not a bad thing, and a lot of people won't understand the new moves that you make in your
Yep.
life. And so I think, I think about relationships I've shed over the years, and there's a reason why they say, think about like your best friend. You're like, oh, you share a brain, but there is something to like the people that you hang out with. And, you don't want to keep a limiting mindset. You don't want to keep around the
Mhm.
person who's always gossiping or shit talking.
Always.
Yeah. And it really can have a huge impact. So I think
Yeah.
that that one is huge for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, this is my third one, and one that I'm like trying to still practice and wrap my brain around. So just because it's not happening now doesn't mean it's not like your dream isn't working or like your
Yes, yes,
business
yes. Okay.
isn't coming to fruition. The way that I am is I want it all and I want it right away. And I get stuck and you find yourself comparing to where someone else is at and their journey or their life. And I feel like if I'm not there or don't have it all right now, that I'm not going to get there or I'm not successful. And now I'm in a season where this is really, trying me and testing all of my patience. But, just because my business isn't exactly how I want it to look right now, if you stick to your clarity, you stick to what you know, and you just keep on with the journey because you want to build something that is going to be sustainable
Yeah.
for a long time. And so that means maybe slowing down. Or when I was growing my salon, I couldn't wait to get out of the suite. And then I went to another building and had an opportunity. So I expanded in that building. And then I went and bought another one. And, I don't think it's a bad thing to always move fast and be looking at the next step. But I also think it's important that, like, you're making sure that you're building a really strong foundation, and it might take a little bit
Yeah.
longer. And just because you don't have, the number or the clients or, the dream building or whatever that may look like, it doesn't mean it's not happening. It's just meaning that, these things take time to be sustainable and to have the longevity and stuff that is, I don't want to just build a business. I want to build like a legacy. I want
Yeah.
to have an impact on, more than just a handful of clients. I want to create real change in the beauty industry and kind of incorporating beauty and wellness. So,
Yeah. I love it.
yeah,
Shit changes fast. That's what.
so fast.
And I think the good entrepreneurs are the ones that are able to change
Yep.
with it, right? Like, I think conversation that we have in the coming weeks is around, you know, what happens when something doesn't serve you or no longer serves you or your dream no longer serves you. Things take time, but like things also change. Life changes, your circumstances
Yep.
change, your groups change.
Mhm.
I've learned some hard lessons going back to my like have a good network. Some of the hard lessons I've learned, like those really suck to go through, but will make the next evolution of who I'm becoming, or what my business is becoming even better because, you've had the time and the experience and all of that. So that's a good one.
Well, and I think every time you stay true to yourself and you stay on your path and you say no to the friend or the
Yep.
opportunity that isn't in alignment, is every time you do that, you're building trust with yourself and you're strengthening yourself to become the person or the next version that you need in order to, hit this level of success or to grow your business to a
Yeah.
certain point. And so I think it's all really important, and
Yep.
definitely we've learned some lessons over the years.
Gosh. I know. I did the Goldman Sachs 10K small business program. That was like 2 years ago
Yeah,
now, and
which
I
is
loved it.
crazy.
Yeah, but I didn't realize that over 90% of the businesses in the US are small business. So people classify small businesses as different segments, right? It might be a revenue number, it might be, but more than often than not, it's by headcount. So
Mhm.
it's just crazy that like there's so many people taking a chance on themselves and doing all the cool things in the business world, but
Yeah.
they have to. The other stat in that though is like how many fail within year 1, 3, and 5, and I think that's where like the evolutions come in, right? Like
Yeah.
if you don't continue to evolve with what aligns, but it was reassuring because when I did that class is kind of when I had sold my agency and all these things were going on. Um, but I might need a glass of wine to talk about. But I'd be happy to talk about. But I think supporting small business and
Yeah.
and then like knowing that there's like lives behind all these businesses and kind of what they go through and what
Mhm.
business owners have to evaluate on a day in and day out basis with their own circumstances and what's going on with the world or whatever. It's just running a business is crazy. So
Yeah.
hope that these give
Yeah.
you a couple of like good nuggets. Our hope is that, at the end of the day, whether you're following us, can you lead a team, own a business, going through a wellness, like wherever you may be in life,
Yeah.
that we can continue to share kind of our stories and our struggles or our triumphs and failures
Yeah.
or kind of all sides of the spectrum. So
Yeah.
hopefully this helped and we look forward to seeing you guys soon.